do a stream where it's private and I'll put it on public as soon as I upload this. I don't really feel like just dealing with chat or any listeners. I'd rather just record this and then make it public. Y'all can listen to it later. First things first, thesoftspokenshaman@gmail.com is a place to hit me up if you want to read my books, where I've got all the good information that especially I can't talk about on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification button. So I was talking to somebody the other day, somebody who's a practitioner of meditation and a noticer of their thoughts and their emotions, and understanding that, their thoughts and their emotions are kind of a nuisance at times, like a gnat or like, house flies in the summer. And he was remarking, he was saying, man, sometimes my thoughts will they know how to assault my consciousness in just the right way to get me to pay attention to them and then trip me over into reacting to them. Now, I've got a really good exercise for ensuring that your thoughts and your emotions don't hijack your mental framework, your state of being, and cause you to, develop a temper or get salty or do things you don't want to do, react. Because obviously, most of the negative externalities people find themselves in their life has to do with reacting to thoughts and emotions instead of acknowledging them, processing them, and then bidding them goodbye. As I've said before, thoughts and emotions are like clouds in the sky. You look at the sky and typically there's going to be some clouds, unless it's a sunny day, there's typically some clouds. Now, unless you're looking for animal shapes in the clouds or whatnot, you're not really paying attention to singular clouds. You're just seeing them in the aggregate and watching them glide slowly across the sky. Yeah, it seems sometimes that the speed of the clouds rolling along is slow as taffy, but lo and behold, they do move. So the key in the beginning is to understand that thoughts and emotions, no matter how persistent, are not permanent, right? They don't have a fixed abode in your mind. They're travelers, they're guests. Now, the way that I personally ensure that my thoughts and my emotions don't get the best of me, and hey, no matter how good we are at this, we still all fall prey every once in a while. When you're out in public, just to give an example, there's no reasonable expectation of privacy in public, meaning that, whether you're on the street, whether you're on the road, or whether you're in a shop or an establishment, there's going to be strangers. You cannot control who is around you, right? The only way to control it is to be constantly in motion so you can get away from people or go towards certain people, right? But there are strangers everywhere you go in public, especially depending on the density of where you are, city, suburb, rural area. So I view my thoughts and my emotions as strangers. I view them as like when I'm in public and there's people around me. I can't control that there's people around me. Most of the people, they're kind of like wallpaper. You can ignore them. There are some people who are very persistently annoying and they draw attention to themselves. There's all types of strangers, and you can choose to get away from them or interact with them. Well, it's the same thing with your thoughts and your emotions. You can choose to engage. But you can remain an observer and you can remain in the background. With thoughts and emotions, it's best to be like a people watcher. A people watcher will go sit down, in an outdoor area or at the mall or something, and they'll just watch people. Instead of watching people internally, you're watching your thoughts, you're watching your emotions, you're not getting invested. You're not investing in these things. You're just watching them. You're observing them. Observing is interesting because the very dint of the word observation is that you're not taking a side, you're not investing, you're not divesting, you're just watching. It's like, when somebody's making a sales pitch to you and you're not for or against, you're just calmly listening to the sales pitch. Every thought and every emotion that passes through your mind is giving you a sales pitch, and it's trying to inveigle. Nice word, right? Trying to inveigle you to pay attention to it. Just like women, thoughts and attention, thoughts and emotions, their currency is attention. If you don't pay attention, they have no power over you. It's just like strangers, and so many strangers are just background people in our daily life. We pay no attention to them, so they hold no power over our consciousness or our perception. They only hold some degree of power over us when we're paying attention to them, because when we pay attention to them, we're allowing our thoughts of them, or their actions, their thoughts, their things that they say, to pierce, our equipoise, our balanced, our centeredness. So you have that choice and you have that option 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, from, the dawning of the age of reason until the end of your life. And you can choose, do I want to even pay attention? People slip up and they get tricked because they think that because it's in their mind, they have to pay attention to it. Well, no. Nobody said that you had to pay attention to anything going on in your mind. Your thoughts, your feelings, how do you know they're even of you? How do you know, it's not like watching a movie on a screen. You're watching the movie, but you didn't create the movie. How do you know that thoughts and feelings are not that? It's somebody or something else's creation that you're observing. You don't have to fall into those thoughts and emotions, their plot lines. You can just view them like you would a window shopper or a browser and go, oh, that's interesting. I don't feel like buying that today, but it was nice watching, That's a good way to handle thoughts and emotions, because then you won't fall prey to crimes of passion. You won't fall prey to acting on thoughts or emotions the way they can prod you, And you'll find that you make much better decisions, not in the heat of passion, not in the heat of the moment, but thinking, using your brain, You almost need to watch your thoughts and your feelings like you're a neighborhood watch, like you're vigilant, like you're protecting your neighborhood, you're protecting your house. And your house is your soul or your spirit, and you're protecting that against the constant onslaught of bystanders that we call thoughts and feelings. Now, they're bystanders. We don't know if they're assailants or if they're just pedestrians walking by. That's the problem with thoughts and emotions, feelings. We don't know what they're getting at, oftentimes until we become invested in them, So it's just a subtle PSA that you don't have to give your thoughts or your feelings the time of day even. And many of you probably haven't even tried that before. You get so invested when you feel awash with a feeling. You're so invested in it, you want to go deep into it. You want to get up in your feelings. But there's no law that you have to do that. You can ignore a feeling as soon as it sets in. You thought as soon as it comes into your brain. Let me explain something. You guys have probably all had that situation. Sometimes your brain will just give you bad thoughts, like horrible thoughts. And some people think they've got a demon or whatever, but it's just your brain being stupid. Have you ever been in a conversation one-on-one with a person and you just had the thought in your head like, man, what if I punch this person in the face right now? Or man, what if I like kickflip this guy, or like what if I take the base of my hand and like smack it into their bridge of their nose? Obviously don't do those things, but the example is, have you ever had those thoughts before? Like, or you're talking to a girl and you're like, man, I wonder what would happen if I just like picked this woman up and like threw her over my back and just started walking away with her, over my shoulder. Obviously you don't act on these thoughts, but notice how those thoughts are sometimes persistent. It's something, if you ever listen to interviews with PDF files, horrible people as they may be, they talk about, man, I shouldn't have followed that thought, man. Like the thought was just overwhelming my mind. I wish I said no to it. I wish I ignored it. And oftentimes, the famous last words, when people end up doing things or committing crimes or doing things they shouldn't be doing, that they eventually have regret or remorse for, they always go, man, I shouldn't have listened. I wish I had a more effective coping strategy where I didn't give in to that. But most people, again, they're tricked. They give so much power to their thoughts and feelings. They immediate power over themselves. And these things don't have that power unless you give it to them. It's kind of like the myth with the mythos, the origin story of vampires. You have to invite them, in. Otherwise, they cannot cross the threshold into your dwelling. It's the same thing. The true vampires are your thoughts and your feelings. You have to let them in.